guys and gals. It's me, George, the shade tree fix-it man. And you'll forgive the bumpy ride. We're on our way headed east. We are in Wisconsin right now. And the last time I made this trip in a vehicle, I was driving in a I think like a 78 school bus. And it was packed full of all of our earthly belongings, and we were moving back to Pennsylvania from here in Minnesota. And that was back in the year of 2002, I believe. So it's just about 15 years ago. Well, I have a story to tell you that goes along with that old school bus. We had already moved out to Minnesota from Massachusetts using that same school bus. And our trip on the way out was full of all kinds of events. My main issue was that the air pump for the brakes, because it had air-assisted brakes, kept breaking the brackets. And unbeknownst to me, one of the major bolts down underneath was broken where it bolted through the water pump. Well, I kept adding more brackets on and tightening things up, and even broke a copper air line to it at one point, and it seemed like every 50 or 75 miles I was stopping to have to do repairs. And I'm going to stick a clip of me leaning over the front end of that bus working on it way back then. That's on the way out. On our way back to Pennsylvania a year later, we had a different issue. By that time I had fixed the air compressor problem, but I gotta tell you that a school bus has 6 tires on it, 6 wheels of tires. And from the time that we left Minnesota until we reached Pennsylvania, I had bought 7 tires, and I still had one of the originals on it when we arrived. My credit card was paid off when I left Minnesota. Before we reached our destination in Pennsylvania, we had maxed out our credit card. Our credit limit at that time was like $1,500. My wife is slapping me on the arm for telling you. Oh well. Anyway, we're coming along through Wisconsin, and this is what prompted my thoughts about this, is that we were approaching the Wisconsin Dells, and all of a sudden there was a loud bang. And I suddenly realized as the bus began to swerve just a little bit that I had blown a tire on the back end of the bus. And thankfully, my wife says the pieces of shrapnel from the tire hit the windshield of the car that she was driving behind us. We had a, what kind of a car was it? Can't think of it. Saturn. It was a Saturn, little green Saturn.
Yeah, nice to know.
Like a 1991 Saturn or something, I believe. Anyway, as it would have it, and we're very thankful, it happened just before there was an exit that went off the side of the road, and it was just to a small side road. But as it turned out, just off of that side road happened to be a truck tire repair shop, tire and other truck repairs. Well, it was late in the day, and thankfully there was a fella still working. The shop had closed for the day. He was getting ready to leave, and he checked his inventory. He said, "No, I don't have that size tire," but he said, "I can have one here for you by noontime tomorrow." So we left our bus there in the parking lot, and I'm going to have to put another picture in here which will include a different story. I'll tell you that story another time. But we left the bus there, and I hopped in the car with my wife and son, and we had to unload some stuff because the back seat of the car was just jam-packed full of stuff. And our youngest son was with us at the time, so we unloaded the back seat so he could sit back there, and we put a bunch of bags of stuff into the cab of the bus. And we went in town and found a motel. Thankfully, it was off season, so the prices were cheaper. Anyway, next day we went back. Because if you notice, it's kind of sagging and that tire looks kind of soft. Well, the tire is not so soft as the one on the inside. Because the one on the inside is down here. The one on the inside is blown. As you can see in that picture. Had a blowout. And you probably can hear, if you look real carefully, you can see the highway. And the overpass down there, I blew the tire up on the highway there, just off the overpass, just before the overpass. There's the exit road there. Right at the top of the exit, I blew the tire, came down, around the corner, and right here is another one of those moving adventures that we're becoming world famous for. Just an update. And we waited. Noontime came, 1 o'clock came. Finally, the tire arrived, and they pulled the bus in, and they replaced the tire with a brand new tire, brand new tube. And we got back on our way and headed to Indiana, which is going to be our first stop on our trip, to see my brother Cal. You've all seen my brother Cal, and you'll get to see him again in another video. But as we are pulling into a gas station in Elkhart, Indiana, where he lives, I noticed that the outside tire from where my new tire had been replaced was looking very squat, and the sidewalls were all cracked. Well, that didn't surprise me because the tires were probably half as old as the bus was. And I looked inside. Sure enough, the brand new tire was flat and just kind of hanging on the rim. Make a long story short, I decided, well, I don't want any more tire repair jobs. So I decided that I was going to get a set of 4 recap tires to put on the back, and I would take that one new tire off the back and put it on the front, because kingpins were bad on the front and it was wearing out the front tires pretty quickly. Well, I bought those 4 recaps and had them installed and had that one tire put on the front, and the next day we left my brother's, headed for Pennsylvania. We made it about 50 miles, and I threw a cap off of one of those recaps. And as it turned out, the first one came off after 50 miles. We pulled over for the night, found a motel, and I found a shop that had a tire. Actually, it was a used tire this time that they put on to replace it. We drove probably another 50 miles the next day and threw another recap. And that happened to be on a Sunday. And well, we had to leave the highway, and we drove into a town and stopped at a gas station and asked if they knew someplace where I could find a tire for my bus. And he told me about a guy, and he called the guy because it was a Sunday, and the guy came out to his shop, and he, sure enough, he had a tire to fit my bus. So he put that tire on, and we had to pay extra money because it was a Sunday and he had to come out from home. And finally got back on our way and drove into Pennsylvania. And the way I found out that my credit card was maxed out, the last stop that we made for gasoline, just before we reached our destination, refused to take my credit card because it was maxed out. So that's the story of my tires. 7 tires on a 6-tire vehicle, and still had one of the original tires that were on it when I bought it. Yep, I bought 1 new tire in Wisconsin. I bought 4 tires in Indiana. That's 5. Then I threw 1 recap in Ohio. That's 6. And another recap in Ohio. That's 7. Wow. So let this be a lesson to you. If you drive an old bus cross country loaded down with all your earthly belongings, make sure you got good tires, and hopefully when they do a repair, they do the job right. In retrospect, I think if the first tire we had put on had not gone bad, if the tube hadn't been pinched when the guy put it on in the first place, we probably would have made it all the way into Pennsylvania with all the original tires still intact. But that's the way it goes sometimes. That was a time when the shade tree fix-it man couldn't fix it himself. No spare tires and no jacks big enough to change tires on that thing, and I wouldn't have had time or the way to replace those tires anyway. I hope you're having a good day. We have a John Kerry day going on here. Look at them blue skies, huh? Nice. And if you can see my thing up here, the temperature is 70 degrees outside. We got a little AC going in here just to keep it tepid, and enjoying our trip. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, for commenting, and for subscribing. Bye now.